In 1973, a film about a high-tech amusement park where guests could live out their wildest fantasies captivated audiences nationwide. Little did viewers know that Westworld would become a chilling prophecy about humanity's relationship with artificial intelligence. The film took us to a place where the line between human and machine blurred dangerously, where technology designed to serve ultimately rebelled. Michael Crichton's directorial debut tapped into our deepest fears about losing control of our creations, all while delivering a thrilling Western sci-fi experience that continues to resonate today. The image of Yul Brynner's relentless gunslinger with those haunting metallic eyes has become an icon of cinema, inspiring countless films and television shows for decades. Nearly 50 years later, the original Westworld remains a fascinating time capsule, not just of 70s filmmaking, but of the remarkable talent that brought this cautionary tale to life. Join us as we revisit the groundbreaking film and discover what became of the cast who warned us about a future that seems increasingly familiar with each passing year. Richard Benjamin, Peter Martin. Richard Benjamin stepped into the dusty streets of Westworld as Peter Martin, a recently divorced attorney seeking escape from reality. His character embodied the everyman caught in an extraordinary nightmare. Initially timid and overwhelmed by the park's offerings before being forced to find his courage when machines began their murderous rampage. Benjamin was 35 when filming Westworld, bringing a perfect blend of vulnerability and determination to the role that helped ground the film's high-concept premise. Before donning a cowboy hat for Westworld, Benjamin had established himself as a talented actor in films like Goodbye, Columbus, and Diary of a Mad Housewife. His boyish charm and intellectual presence made him the ideal foil to Yul Brynner's menacing gunslinger. The terror on his face as he's relentlessly pursued through the park remains one of cinema's most effective portrayals of human fear facing inhuman persistence. After outsmarting the gunslinger, Benjamin's career flourished both in front of and behind the camera. He went on to direct successful comedies including My Favorite Year and The Money Pit, while continuing to act in numerous films and television shows. Now 86 years old, Benjamin's performance in Westworld stands as a highlight in a versatile and accomplished career spanning over 5 decades. His final desperate battle against technology gone rogue became the template for countless sci-fi survival stories that followed, cementing his place in the genre's history as one of its most relatable heroes. James Brolin, John Blaine. James Brolin brought the confident, experienced John Blaine to life in Westworld, serving as the perfect contrast to Benjamin's anxious character. As Peter Martin's friend who convinces him to visit the park, Blaine represents the carefree visitor who knows the ropes and initially dismisses any concerns about the technology. Brolin was just 33 when filming Westworld, exuding a natural charisma and rugged handsomeness that made him perfectly suited for the Western setting. Before facing off against malfunctioning robots, Brolin had built a steady television career on shows like Marcus Welby, MD, which earned him an Emmy and a Golden Globe. Westworld showcased his ability to seamlessly blend into genre films, handling action sequences with convincing skill while maintaining the relaxed demeanor of a man who thinks he's merely on vacation until things go terribly wrong. After his character's shocking demise at the hands of the gunslinger, Brolin's career continued to flourish across television and film. He starred in the disaster film sensation The Amityville Horror, led the hit series Hotel, and later found a new generation of fans through comedic roles in films like Pee-wee's Big Adventure and the Meet the Parents franchise. Now 84 years old, Brolin continues to work while enjoying family life with his wife Barbara Streisand. His performance in Westworld remains a pivotal moment in sci-fi cinema, portraying the shocking realization that technology designed for entertainment could become deadly. Yul Brynner, the Gunslinger. No character embodies Westworld's lasting legacy more perfectly than Yul Brynner's terrifying gunslinger. Dressed entirely in black with reflective mechanical eyes, Brynner created cinema's most iconic robot villain decades before Terminators and replicants entered the cultural lexicon. At 53 during filming, Brynner reimagined his famous role from The Magnificent Seven as something far more sinister. A machine programmed to lose gunfights until it decides not to play by human rules anymore. Before stalking victims through Westworld, Brynner had already achieved legendary status in Hollywood with his Oscar-winning performance in The King and I and memorable roles in The Ten Commandments and The Magnificent Seven. What made his Gunslinger performance revolutionary was his mechanical movement. Deliberate, economical, and utterly inhuman. Without CGI or special effects, Brynner conveyed artificial intelligence through pure physical performance, creating a character that felt genuinely other than human. After establishing this new archetype of the relentless machine antagonist, Brynner returned briefly for the sequel Future World before continuing his distinguished career on stage and screen. He passed away in 1985 at age 65, but his Gunslinger lives on as the forefather of every emotionless, unstoppable robot threat in cinema. The image of him walking methodically through the chaos of the malfunctioning park, impervious to fire and determined to complete his mission, continues to haunt our technological nightmares nearly 50 years later. Michael Crichton, director, writer. Michael Crichton wasn't just the visionary behind Westworld, he was the rare novelist who successfully transitioned to directing his own screenplay, crafting one of science fiction's most prophetic films. At just 30 years old during production, the Harvard-educated medical doctor turned writer brought scientific credibility to the concept of a technological theme park gone haywire. His clinical approach to storytelling made the film's descent into chaos feel disturbingly plausible. Before creating Westworld, Crichton had already established himself as a best-selling author, with novels like The Andromeda Strain, which was adapted into a successful film. Westworld marked his theatrical directorial debut, where he meticulously crafted scenes that gradually revealed the park's underlying technological infrastructure before systematically dismantling it. His background in medicine informed the film's exploration of how complex systems can fail catastrophically. After establishing the template for techno-thriller entertainment, Crichton continued his remarkable career exploring the dangers of scientific advancement in works like Jurassic Park and television's ER. The themes he introduced in Westworld, the ethics of artificial intelligence, the hubris of technological entertainment, the commodification of fantasy, would become his literary signatures. Crichton passed away in 2008 at age 66, but his legacy lives on through multiple adaptations of his work, including HBO's reimagined Westworld series. His original film stands as a testament to his unique ability to transform scientific concerns into visceral entertainment that continues to feel relevant with each technological leap forward. Linda Scott, Arlette. Linda Scott brought a memorable spark to Westworld as Arlette, the charming and seductive robot working in the local saloon who catches John Blaine's attention. Her character represented the perfect fantasy element of the park, beautiful, available, and programmed to fulfill visitors' desires without complications. At approximately 30 years old during filming, Scott embodied the idealized Western saloon girl with a performance that subtly hinted at her non-human nature. Before her turn in Westworld, Scott had worked primarily in television with appearances on popular shows like Mannix and Mission Impossible. Her performance as Arlette required a delicate balance, appearing human enough to be attractive to the park's guests while incorporating subtle robotic mannerisms that would make viewers question where the human performance ended and the programmed behavior began. After Westworld, Scott continued her career with various television appearances through the 1970s, including roles on shows like Harry-O and The Streets of San Francisco. Unlike some of her co-stars, Scott maintained a lower profile in Hollywood following her work on the film. Her portrayal of Arlette remains significant as an early exploration of artificial companions designed specifically for pleasure, a concept that has become increasingly relevant as technology advances. Her character's artificial nature represented the moral ambiguity at the heart of Westworld's premise. When does entertainment cross ethical boundaries? And what responsibilities do we have toward the artificial beings we create? Alan Oppenheimer, Chief Supervisor. Alan Oppenheimer portrayed the clinical chief supervisor in Westworld, one of the technicians responsible for maintaining the park's increasingly unstable robots. His character embodied the scientific hubris at the heart of the film, dismissing early warning signs of malfunction and assuring others that the technology couldn't possibly pose any real danger to guests. At around 43 during filming, Oppenheimer brought a perfect blend of authority and misplaced confidence to the role. Before joining the Westworld team, Oppenheimer had established himself through numerous television appearances on shows like I Spy, Hogan's Heroes, and Star Trek. His performance as the chief supervisor showcased his ability to convey technical expertise while subtly revealing the character's growing concern as systems begin to fail catastrophically around him. His famous line about the robot's inability to harm guests takes on chilling irony as events unfold. After Westworld, Oppenheimer became one of the most prolific voice actors in animation history. He gave voice to iconic characters including Skeletor in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Falkor in The Never-Ending Story, and numerous roles in Transformers and Smurfs productions. Now 94 years old, Oppenheimer's extensive career spans over 6 decades of film, television, animation, and video games. His performance in Westworld represents an early example of what would become a science fiction staple. The overconfident scientist whose faith in technology blinds him to its dangers until it's too late. Victoria Shaw, Medieval Queen. Victoria Shaw graced Westworld's medieval section as the Elegant Queen, representing the fantasy fulfillment available in the park's diverse themed areas. Though her screen time was limited, Shaw's regal presence helped establish the scope of Dallas's offerings beyond the Western setting that dominated the film. At approximately 38 during filming, Shaw brought sophistication and mystery to her role as another machine designed to enhance visitors' experiences in the meticulously crafted historical simulation. Before her royal turn in Westworld, Australian-born Shaw had achieved notable success in Hollywood with performances alongside stars like Tyrone Power in The Eddie Dutchin Story and Glenn Ford in The Flying Nun. She brought a touch of classic Hollywood glamour to her brief but memorable appearance in Crichton's technological cautionary tale. Her character represented the breadth of the park's ambition in creating historically accurate fantasies powered by advanced robotics. Shaw's participation in Westworld came toward the end of her film career, which had begun with considerable promise in the 1950s. Sadly, she passed away in 1988 at just 53 years old. Though her role was smaller than some of her castmates, Shaw's Medieval Queen represented an important aspect of the film's central premise: that human history itself could be repackaged as consequence-free entertainment. Her performance hinted at the complex programming needed to recreate historical figures with artificial intelligence, a concept that continues to fascinate audiences as we grapple with increasingly sophisticated AI technologies that blur the line between authentic human interaction and convincing simulation. Dick Van Patten, banker. Dick Van Patten made a memorable impression as the mild-mannered banker in Westworld, another visitor seeking adventure in the high-tech theme park. Though his role was relatively small, Van Patten's natural likability and everyman quality helped establish how the park attracted ordinary people looking for extraordinary experiences. At around 44 during filming, his character represented the average tourist swept up in the fantasy before becoming potential prey when the robots malfunction. Before checking into Westworld, Van Patten had built a substantial career as a child actor in the 1930s, before transitioning to adult roles on Broadway and in television. He had become a familiar face through guest appearances on countless TV shows, including I Dream of Jeannie, The Love Boat, and Sanford and Son. His casting in Westworld highlighted how the park catered to all types of customers, not just those seeking gunslinger adventures. After his brief but significant appearance in the sci-fi classic, Van Patten's career reached new heights when he landed his signature role as patriarch Tom Bradford in the hit series 8 is Enough, which ran from 1977 to 1981. He continued working steadily in film and television while also establishing himself as an animal welfare advocate and entrepreneur with his Natural Balance Pet Foods company. Van Patten passed away in 2015 at age 86, leaving behind a diverse 7-decade career. His small role in Westworld serves as a reminder of how science fiction often uses relatable characters to ground fantastic scenarios, making the technological horrors feel all the more threatening when they target familiar faces. Majel Barrett, Miss Carrie. Majel Barrett brought a captivating presence to Westworld as Miss Carrie, the sophisticated madam of the local brothel. Her character represented the adult entertainment aspects of the park where guests could indulge their fantasies without moral judgment or consequences. At approximately 41 during filming, Barrett infused Miss Carrie with an elegant authority and subtle mechanical perfection that hinted at her non-human nature while maintaining the illusion necessary for guests' immersion. Before operating Westworld's Pleasure Palace, Barrett had already secured her place in science fiction history through her work on Star Trek as Nurse Christine Chapel and as the voice of the Enterprise's computer. Her casting in Westworld created an interesting parallel between two influential sci-fi universes. One optimistic about technology's potential, the other cautionary about its dangers. Her experience portraying characters in futuristic settings made her perfectly suited for the role of an advanced android designed to seem human. After Westworld, Barrett's connection to the Star Trek franchise deepened significantly. She married creator Gene Roddenberry, continued appearing in various Trek incarnations, and became known as the First Lady of Star Trek. She voiced the computer systems across multiple series and films until her death in 2008 at age 76. Her participation in Westworld represents a fascinating intersection between two science fiction touchstones that explored artificial intelligence from drastically different perspectives. Barrett's performance as Miss Carrie stood in stark contrast to her benevolent Star Trek computer, demonstrating her versatility while contributing to one of cinema's earliest explorations of humanoid robots designed specifically to fulfill human desires. Westworld broke new ground in 1973, warning us about technology's dangers decades before AI became reality. This talented cast created characters that continue to haunt our technological nightmares and influence science fiction today. Their performances transformed a high-concept premise into a visceral cautionary tale that feels increasingly relevant with each passing year. Which Westworld character made the biggest impression on you? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more cinematic journeys through time. Don't miss our next Then and Now.